July 12, 2023.
I need to know. Might be a good idea. There's that. Here you go, Miriam.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve these minutes.
On the 21/2023, who's the chairman?
Oh, did I mix that up? Yes. Okay, well, we'll scratch that one and I'll redo it and we'll bring it back.
Okay, June 21st, Equalization Formal Appeals minutes. Any corrections or deletions?
Probably the same thing on the chairman.
Is that, do I have you down again on that? Wait a minute, the 12th. The 12th I've got the right chairman.
Okay, well, let's see.
No,
It's just the
no.
21st.
The first paragraph, Olson bold, below election of 2023 officers. Chairman Olson.
Chairman, Shirley, chairman, vice chair, Olson.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Didn't I have that right?
Yeah, well, I just need to, I forget about
It's Olson moved and it's,
Let's see, mine's the same.
I did get this one right, did I not? It has use the chairman, use the chairman, use the chairman. And Olson is the vice chairman, Olson is the vice
Yeah.
chairman.
That's right up there.
Okay.
Okay, I think I got this, I think the 12th is right.
12th is right.
The 21st is not. 'Cause I went off of another year and I forgot. to
Well,
put
can't we
it.
just amend it and fix it here?
Yes, we can.
Hey, let's just,
You don't have to worry.
Because that's all it is.
all we gotta do is,
Okay, I don't have the 12.
I wasn't here anyway, so.
Okay,
we can
Oh, I
correct
gave you
it.
2 of the others, sorry.
Okay.
Here's the 12.
here's the.
Marion might need to check hers, she might have 2 of the others.
I think I
No,
gave her.
I've got.
Chris, we can correct it.
Yeah,
And approve
right,
it.
yeah.
Okay,
And we approve it as corrected.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, we'll correct the, June 21st, if say Chairman Shirley, call the meeting to order. And any other corrections or deletions? Okay, I'll move we approve the minutes as corrected.
I'll take it.
Chris, second. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Excuse me, aye, all. Motion carried. And the other one?
that's it. You did both of them, right?
No, I just did one.
Okay, what's the other one? The 12th? Where's the 12th?
You have to, don't you have to do them individually?
Yeah. Oh, that's best.
Okay, Equalization Board, when Seaver's absent, June, July the 12th. Entertain a motion to approve.
I make the motion we approve.
I'll take it.
Bob, motion to approve. Chris, second. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Ayes have it, motion carried.
Okay, you want to sign both those real quick and then that way we have that done. I'll forget. Thank you.
Okay, I'll call this meeting to order. This is, you already did that. Discussion and possible action regarding the following: hearings for formal appeal to the Equalization Board by Targa and DCP.
Okay, so Targa sent me an email yesterday and it says, "Dear Board of Equalization, my name is Nolan Williams. I'm employed at K.E. Andrews and we represent Targa Pipeline, Mid-Con, West Oak in property tax matters. The enclosed information is what we would like read into record for the VOE hearing on Wednesday, July 26th. So here is a copy of that for each one of you. Oh, should I say that who else here, and maybe I should do that. Okay.
Okay.
So Chairman Joe Shirley, Vice Chair Chris Olson, Member Bob Sievert, Assistant DA Brian Mitchell, Renetta Benson, our Assessor, Jerry Wisdom is with Task, Marianne Martin is with our newspaper, Jennifer Schaefer is my first deputy, and I am Shelley Reed, County Clerk.
I'd like to note that I was here based on subpoena issued by the board.
Yes,
So that's why I'm here today.
and everyone has filled out their affidavits, and I have them on file.
Okay, Jerry, you want to talk about Target?
Do we need to read that first?
Read it.
Yeah, read it.
Okay, here we go. You want me to read that? Okay. 2000, do you want me to read all this that's on here? Woods County Loan, 2022 market value was $246,118,325. 2023 notice value was $309,561,650. The 2023 informal value was $309,561,650. And the 2023 KEA opinion of value is $75,255,600. First, KEA does not feel that the increase in value is warranted for 2023. Last year we were at $246 million. This year we were at $309 million. That is a 26% increase on values that were not settled on in 2021. In 2020, Florida Pipeline Company West Oak impaired their assets down to $152 million for all their assets across multiple counties. These counties include Alfalfa, Blaine, Dewey, Garfield, Grant, Kay, Kingfisher, Major, Oklahoma Woods, and Woodward. They impaired these values because of two main reasons. Utilization income. Pipelines in Woods County were running at only 4.6% of their design capacity. And then there's a graph on here. To sum up, with utilization income so low, you can see why we feel these assets are overvalued and tremendously, and we believe based on the facts listed, a reduction is needed and warranted. I want to make one first comment. Income has not squat to do with this. It has nothing to do with it. It's the value of the property involved. And as an example, my tractor's worth so much money, whether I make a dime or not, and I pay the same amount of tax on that tractor, whether I made $1 million or I didn't make $1. So I don't want to hear in this hearing that amount of money they made is insignificant. That has no bearing on what we are talking about. And with that, I'll ask if anybody else has comments.
There's a lot of difference between 75,000 and 309,000 something along there. Million, yeah.
Yes.
There's a lot of difference. Somebody is attempting to twist the numbers, and Targa bases their facility on the fact that there is so many reserves in this area, whether it's taken out today or tomorrow or whatever, the tax base should be equal to their investment in what they've got out there.
Agreed. Jerry?
Yes, sir.
basis here.
I'm gonna tell you, I don't like this ability for them to be able to send this in writing and not be able to answer questions that we've got. That seems to me like, we got a problem there. I wanna talk to these people. Our position is we have to be fair. And we're representing all taxpayers. And these folks here are just wanting to skirt our responsibility as an equalization board by not having them available here to answer questions. I don't like that. I want to be fair, but I want to be able to ask them a question and know why they think there's such a difference here between 76 million and 309 million.
Well, they did supply me with the phone number, I don't have to run the list, but if we wanted to call and talk to them,
Do we talk to the firm that represents them, or do we talk to the company Target?
yeah, you're gonna talk to the firm,
It's not an
and it's
attorney,
not
it's
gonna be
a tax
Nolan,
rep.
because Nolan's not available. It was gonna be somebody else that sent me this email. But her name's Rhonda.
Yeah.
I don't know what Rhonda, but if you want me to go get it, I will. Here's a phone number, I will.
Well, keep that in your pocket, because we may want to talk to them.
Okay.
Gary?
Yes, sir. Good morning. Again, I am here by way of subpoena to provide you documents and information that Renetta utilized in the valuation model for this year. Again, this year, as each year, we start out with a rendition written by the taxpayer, and then we look at market conditions and changes and so on. So I want to address a few things on his exhibit first that are in error. First of all, the 2022 market value was 246, 118, 325. The 2023 value is not 309 million, and it did not go up 26%. So that's wrong.
What is it? What's the correct amount?
The correct amount, if you look on my packet or my exhibit, I can just read it. The correct amount for the two accounts is 270,999,808. So that's a little bit closer to the number, but as you stated, Mr. Olson, there's a big discrepancy in the two values, and I think I will be able to define what that is. Bob, did you have a question?
I know, please proceed.
Where did they
I
get
mean-
the 309?
309 was the original notice value that we had for the assessor's office, and the assessor adjusted at the informal hearing. Is what happened.
Okay.
She adjusted to 10% over last year's due to market conditions.
Okay.
So we'll talk about those market conditions. So we did make adjustments for that. Another thing is in here, while they wrote down the assets in 2020, that doesn't necessarily mean what the assets started at and where their book values are at now. But while they say they did have an impairment, which we do see an impairment, at the end of the day is what is the market value of the assets today. They're talking about the capacities of the pipelines in their method, saying it runs at 4.6. That goes, Mr. Chairman, to the cost approach to value, and that's what we make adjustments for. Your statement about the income, there are three approaches to value: income, sales, and cost. So the income is an indicator of value if you have the information. While they do note that the utilization income is so low, they did not provide you with that information today. So I would just note for record, income is a method of going to value, but you need to have the information. Luckily for the board, I was at Major and Alfalfa. They provided the income data for the system, and I'm going to present that to you today to rebut some of that information that they had. They usually have 2 pages of this right here on the secondary page. So those are just a few things different.
Can I say something?
You can say why.
We didn't change it because he didn't want to discuss it, because it was in litigation.
Oh, okay, so it is at
It is
309.
at 309.
Oh, That you offered to.
So I don't know how how did I get my numbers in my system?
Because we talked about it.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Well, all right, I stand, okay. I stand corrected because she did the informal process, we discussed.
She said it's in.
Again, there was a statute this year that disallows us to be involved at the informal level and the formal level with the assessors, and I think you guys heard that in the last meeting from my review of the tape. So that makes it a little bit difficult here. We talked about the information before we had the formal, but after she did that, we're kind of out of the process now, and she went on. So what she did is, my recommendation was to do 10% over the last year's value based upon market conditions, and it'd be a fair settlement. This way we settled most of the values across the state. But being as it may, then the 309 was correct, and so I stayed corrected because I didn't have any idea either. Well, we didn't talk.
We didn't talk.
We stayed by the statute that goes there, and these are some of the problems that I certainly feel that the statute. I think your Attorney General's coming to town today. I think that's something that needs to be addressed, your Attorney General, because I certainly believe this is an unconstitutional statute to where one party and the other can't be there. So that's going to be something for you guys to get changed with the legislatures. But I think your Attorney General is going to be here today, and maybe that's a question that you can pose to him, saying it's not an equal playing field, as I think Mr. Olson alluded to in the last hearing. So that being as it may, so we're going to look at my exhibits right here. So if you look on page 2 of my exhibits, this is a map of the system. This is the West Oak system. As you can see, most of the property is in Oklahoma. You have a lot in of course, Woods County, Major, Garfield, and there's a small amount in Texas, or in Kansas. So any allocation method that you would need to do, evaluation models, we have to take into consideration the Kansas property as well as the Oklahoma property too. On Exhibit 3, so this was my, asked for the 10% increase, but I guess it's informal. I guess she said there was nothing really to talk about, but it was going to court anyway. I guess you might put that for record, what that conversation was.
Yeah, we didn't really talk.
Okay.
He said it was already in litigation, and we left things out how they were.
Okay. All right, so if you look on page 4, so let's talk about it a little bit different from market conditions year over year. On page 4 is inside FERC monthly gas prices or indexes for pipelines in Oklahoma. These are all the major pipelines. This is the price of gas that average per year per system. So this particular area up here is Panhandle Eastern Pipeline is here, Southern Star is here, NGPL has a portion. So you can see the Panhandle Eastern Pipeline gas price year over year was up 71.85%. While he states his market value only went up 26%, as you can see the market for the gas prices went up 71%. So there's a discrepancy there between the two. There's not a direct correlation for.
Let me ask you a question. What about the gathering charge, the Target charges? Is that going up?
We don't know that, Chris, because they don't provide that, but we can look at the income analysis here in a minute and see. Yeah, they usually have an escalation fee each year tied to the consumer index, but I haven't seen that prices, but there usually is an escalation fee. And that would depend upon whether it was a fixed fee rate or whether it was a percent of proceeds contract or percent of index, a POI. So a percent of index would mean that they're going to charge a gathering fee based on the index. So if it was charged on the base of the index, then yes, there would have been an increase because it would have been tied to these Panhandle Eastern pipeline prices. So we don't know because they don't supply that. But we can look at the income in a minute and see.
Is this also applicable to their stripping facilities where they strip the BTUs out?
Yes, there's 2 different plants here where they strip out the NGLs for that, and that's a percent of proceeds contracts that are tied with the industry up here too. So it's a separate contract all in itself.
Is that included in there, you think?
We'll look at the income models. Income models should encompass everything, but again, We haven't had a chance to audit these. I've only had it for a couple of weeks. We ask for these each year, from the companies.
Do you always get what you ask for?
Even at home, I don't get what I ask for all the time, but no, we do not. On page 5, so the average Henry Hub price, which is a benchmark. I'm sure you hear Cushing Hub prices or Henry Hub when they're talking about news. This is what they talk about the price. So as you see in 2020, when the low was 204, well, this ties with in 2020 when Target impaired their assets. As you can see, that was the bottom. So when they impair their assets, it has to do with they don't think that they're going to be able to recover it based upon the market prices at that time. Even though they impair those, they can't ever bring those back up on their books. So when it went to 391, they still had that impairment. It didn't necessarily mean that they could be worth more now because of the pricing. And then, as you can see, last year averaged 642. So from the low of the 204, this directly falls in line with their assets that wrote down for 152 because of 204. Well, it's not 204 anymore. But once they impair it, they cannot rebook those assets that way. They already wrote that impairment and that loss for that particular year. Okay? So if we look on page 6, we look at the oil prices year over year. It was up 39% year over year. As I stated before, these are the documents that Renetta and I went over along with other assessors that we discussed the market conditions before we did all these values. So that your subpoena, you guys requested us to give documents relating this. So this is things that the assessor already had for the most part in the discussions in her adjustments for the values. If you look on page 7, that just shows the year-over-year increase of 39%. Flip on over to page 8. So to get into Mr. Olson's question about NGLs, NGLs is what they strip out of the natural gas. This is rich gas in the area. So the commodity pricing for a low for NGL last year, according to EnLink's another area. They just bought Tall Oak system here, so they're in the area here. They're the Oklahoma company. But the average NGL price last year was 46 cents. For that, the average for last year, or that was the low, the average was 83 cents and the high was $1.12 for 2022. So you can see an increase as well in that manner. And then you look at the natural gas price, year over year was up 60%. Again, he's stating why was there a 26% increase. So let's look at Target's income, Mr. Chairman, on page 9. So this is from their 10K information, and notably, Mr. Williams addressed this information about saying that we're looking at Target's total EBITDA as a total company-wide, and he's absolutely correct. In their systems, they don't break out West Oak system with the South Oak system or somewhere else. So this is the only thing that we had at that time. But you can see their average expense ratio was about 30.88% in 2022. They had a 61% increase in EBITDA, and that's net operating income. So that's a difference from the prior year from their EBITDA. You can see a little increase last year that we discussed last year in the hearing on the EBITDA. But that's another reason for his 26% increase is due to their income analysis. Now, we did the cost approach method initially for that because that's what the information is based on. So page 10 is the average expense ratios for the company, showing what the average ratios for different companies. They show that's their peer group, if you will, MarkWest, One Oak, Target, EnLink, Energy Transfers. So if we were going to do an income approach, if we actually had the volumes of the gas that flowed through this county, we'd be able to do that. We don't have the actual counties that are the volumes that flow specifically through Woods County. Why? They don't supply that information. And that'll have to get into, and that's why some of this is so troublesome, and we're in district court is trying to get discovery get the information that you guys need or the assessors need to cut off this problem of having the litigation. You look on page 11. So how did the other companies do last year? We look at the top, and you can see that Targa was up 61%. DCP was up 94% over last year. We're going to talk about DCP in a minute. So their EBITDA is up 94%, while One Oak's only up 14%, InLink 26%, Kinder Morgan 39%, and Energy Transfer 70%. So, but the overall average of the increase in EBITDAs for these peer groups was 39%. And again, the valuation difference from last year's 26%. So on the cost approach to value on page 12, this is how we did the cost approach to value for each one of these companies. And in this manner, you see that we do have the proper number at $309,561 in this analysis here. So that wasn't changed, for our cost approach allocations. So you look at the total percentage, we come up with an RCN of $2.299 billion with a fair market value of $855 million for the Oklahoma assets. I called Kansas, and I got the value for the Kansas on the bottom side. The value for the Kansas assets are $10,485,372. As you look from the map, you can see much less assets up there, much less pipelines. It makes sense. So you can see what I've done is I've broken an allocation down by county to do a distribution of income analysis when we get to that here in a minute. So Woods County has 36.2% of the total assets in Oklahoma value, but overall it has 35.76. So when we do an income approach to value, we're going to come back and say, okay, the income of the company is this for the assets that they have in Kansas and Oklahoma, and then the Woods County is going to have 35.76%. So we look each year, when you take a percentage of income, you take a direct capitalization rate and you apply that to the net operating income. It's a capitalization method. So you take the amount of income that they had, net operating, divide that by 0.085. That gives you your income approach, Mr. Chairman, that you talked about a while ago. It is a method of valuation that's recognized. So there is some relevance to it when you have specific numbers. The cost approach is the other way, and the sales approach is another way.
Obviously, tax is a little different.
Yeah, the property taxes are still driven by the asset, but what we're trying to do is try to find out if the income supports the investment costs they have. When they talked about writing the $152 million down in his impairment for 2020, it's because the price of gas was $2.02. It's not that way anymore, so it's changed. The market's changed. As you know, land prices aren't the same that they were in 2020. Neither are houses, so this is a market condition, even in a commercial property such as a gathering system. Okay, so page 15. So this is the actual income stuff that was presented to Alfalfa, and it was presented to Major County in a public hearing. So we took the total revenues, and this is for just the West Oak system itself. Remember I said earlier that the total company was up, 160-some%. Here, according to that, the West Oak was up 150%. So while the statement was true, earlier on, when I was reflecting the, EBITDA year-over-year increase just for the company. Yes, the total company EBITDA was up 161%, okay, or 61%. This particular system was up 50%, okay. So the amount of revenues that they generated from 2021, 2022 was up 50%. Does that make sense to everybody? So our value went up 26%, so it's not dollar for dollar increasing in that, but it certainly shows that there should have been an increase over last year's value. So you look at the total income, net income at the bottom. So the net income was up 49.94. So it exponentially went up about the same manner as revenues to income. So their income was up. Their total income, net income, the way they calculated was 42 million for 21, but 63 million for the other year. So that went up. Now then, there's a lot of things that shouldn't be, in this. You don't still take that particular number and divide it by that income. There's a lot of expenses that's not allowable in that. So again, this is just for the West Oak system. They actually did a income approach using this $53.7 million income at the top of the page, and he calculated alfalfa's value to be 80 million. He calculated the total market value doing an income approach of 448 million. So I think his percentage a while ago was 35%, or what we said. So let's take just some numbers here. 448, 268, 308 times 0.35. By his own income approach to value, gentlemen and ladies, he should be reporting 156,893,000. He's only reporting 75 million. So again, what we discussed last year in the hearing, the companies put a low value to tie up the tax dollars for this system. It's a game that they played. I think we've talked about that before. But by his own evidence that we have here, his income approach, total value is 448. We take the total 35%. His market value should be 156, so he shouldn't be tying up the other 75 million or 80 million dollars that he's tying up. He's punishing the schools, he's punishing the county for attempting to do that. It's wrong. Maybe that's something you could talk to your Attorney General about today when he's here. Show something like that. But again, this is a systemic problem across the state. It's one of the things that we addressed at the legislature. The legislature felt that I was the problem for that. So, but they don't get to see these numbers because it's all confidential information. This is a public hearing now. Again, this is other information that can come out, but by his own evidence here, it's wrong.
Let me ask you a question here. You've run a lot of numbers by us that includes other counties, another state, and they want to limit you for finding that and presenting it to us. How do they expect the assessor to do this on her own?
I think that's a question for your legislatures, and they were convinced, to do that. They think that's I've been attacked for 27 years. I've been doing this for 27 years. I'm just doing my job and reporting the information and the evidence. And when it gets to a board like this, you guys got to look at one page of property here. It kind of sounds, official, and maybe you guys should go with the value of that without seeing other information. So that is a systemic problem with the taxation of these oil and gas and energy-related assets. Again, I'm just an appraiser, giving you the value, telling you the situation. It's your money. It's a school. Well, it's all our money because if the money's shortfall for the schools, it gets reimbursed. But I don't want to get off on a political agenda, and I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to give you the facts of what's going on with this, and it's an unfair property tax scheme or system that they're doing.
Well, if you're presenting this information to us today as an equalization board, so how does that, the idea that they limit you because assessor that presents evidence to us as an equalization board, how does that apply to, then going to the next step to the state board of whatever they're doing now? It seems to me like we're the authority, we're the one that's asking for correct information, not the state.
Statutorily, many years ago, that there was an estoppel statute stating that if the companies did not provide the necessary information, they were stopped from protesting the value further. That statute's got watered down through the legislature for several years. They've passed other statutes to make it more problematic in that manner. It's all a myriad of statutes that are put in there. But they had a case many years ago that if they're not going to give the information, it's like if I come in and bought a house and I'm refusing to give you the sales price and for the market value, it doesn't fly in the face of the valuation models. But this is other information, and it's misleading information if you don't know how to dissect it. And we're going to look at that here in just a second. Even on his income approach to value that he used with a high cap rate. So that's just statutes and the problems. You guys actually have subpoena power. This board has used subpoena power in the past, but to no avail. Because they passed statutes that saying that even though the board issues a subpoena to see records, they still can appeal your decision based upon that information. It's a misguided approach.
It seems to me the equalization board's authority and their job is to equal the tax base between all taxpayers. And they're trying to limit this
Well,
by way of going to the state.
Right.
Absolutely, and the thing that I can tell you from the assessor standpoint is we value all the pipelines in the county the same way. So as far as equalization, we're not picking on these companies just because they're in a lawsuit or whatever. Obviously, they didn't want to have a discussion, earlier, or try to reach, some sort of settlement agreement, for the prior year. But as far as a board of equalization for this class of properties, the assessor did value it the same manner. So we are equalized, in that manner. Some people will say call this equal unjust taxation or equal, of whatever person's view is. If you look on page 16, so let's analyze this income statement a little bit. And you guys, these are a lot of numbers that you guys are getting to see for the first time. And I know, in the past you guys want to do it, but that affidavit that we signed earlier, that got put into place several years ago to where we can't send you any of this information prior to any hearing. This is the first time that you guys are seeing it. That's another disadvantage, that if you guys want to do your own analysis of the valuation models, that you can't do that, to look at that information because it's confidential and that's other statutes that these put in place. Again, your Attorney General is going to be here telling maybe that's something else that you could address with that, not putting that on. But I'm just clearly stating this stuff is it's a roadblock every time the assessor does something for that to get the information to do that, and it's causing harm. So it's just going to be continued. But we work with the statute that the legislature gave us. We still have a statute to be fair cash value or fair market value. That's what we believe we're still doing. So when you look at this revenue deal, this on page 16, this is I just put it in an Excel factor here. Depreciation and amortization is not an allowable deduction. So whenever he did his calculation for his NOI, he included $22 million of depreciation that shouldn't. So when he did the $22 million difference, that would have made his market value at his own cap rate. I'm just going to take $22 million. Divided by 0.12. That would have put another $183 million to his income approach to value, okay, from his 482, because you don't do that. So 35% more of that would have been for Woods. There's another $64 million now. So now instead of 156 million, he should be reporting 210 million.
He being the company.
The tax rep that's
Yeah,
doing
okay,
this.
Okay.
So what I'm saying with these numbers clearly in that deal, he's, from his own numbers, I didn't change his numbers any. I just took out the disallowed expenses, the depreciation's not, and uses unlegible or 12% high cap rate is wrong. But we're not, let's just take it for its face value. He reported 75 by his own first income approach. It should have been 156, and if you take out the depreciation, it should be another 64, should be 210. So now then, Chris, we are at 210 to 309. We're a lot closer than we are, but by putting the 75, he's tied up another $1.5 million in property taxes until it gets settled. Okay? So what we did is the income approach to value. Down here we come up the net operating income. On the next page, this is my income approach on page 17. So the total revenue was 594 million. Total operating expenses 540. You know, we didn't get to go through the operating. We're accepting them as rendered. There may have been some travel expense for the pipeline. Usually, whenever they have travel expenses for the pipelines, we ask them where it traveled to, and we'd see if it was a deduction or not. I'm being facetious there. A little fun there. So, but I mean, there's certain expenses that are allowable and not, but we're accepting them as presented. Okay. You add this depreciation in that wasn't supposed to be there. Okay. That gives us an NOI of 75 million. We used an appropriate 8.5% cap rate rather than these 12. We come up with a market value of 892,619,000 for the total system. If you look at the 35.76% of the income, that gives the income approach to value $319,200,000. We've now done a cost approach to value and an income approach to value that correlates it. It's a 300 some. And then we offered at the informal to settle on 270 million just because of the difference. Because at that particular time, ladies and gentlemen, we didn't have this income approach to value. And even if and then by keeping the same value, and here's the other thing, let's talk about another statute. Whatever value that this board sets caps the value when you go into district court or trial court. So if she was to put 270 million because it was that, we didn't have an income approach because we were trying to settle the number, that would have left $40 million difference now in a value that would be gone. Because now the income approach supports the $319 million value. So kudos to the assessor holding with the value, but I mean the tax rep said that they didn't want to do anything either. But there's another statute that goes wrong. We have a de novo trial. We set it 270 and we get an income approach and it comes into at 319. That holds our hands too. But they can lower the value anywhere they want to. So that being said, the other deal is just the valuations for the other. I would just say that the indication of market value supports the 309,561,650 according to the information that we have and according to an income approach to value using their own income analysis by correcting the depreciation and using the proper capitalization. And I've answered any of the questions that the board might have.
Now that you've documented the value at over $300 million, is the county obligated to honor the initial negotiation?
No, it's not. As a matter of fact, it didn't. That was just an offer to settle that so it wouldn't go to court for that, in that manner. So no, it's not obligated, whatsoever. You guys can set the value, based upon the facts that you have right here in front of you with the numbers.
Now, I understand you said we can set the value?
You can change the value of something if you've got support of the information here. You could adjust the value from 309 million to 319 million if you felt the income approach to value. I would just state that our opinion around the 309 is probably the just and correct value. If you go add in a bunch of other value, you're going to do nothing more than it's not like we're not trying to buy a truck here or a car. It's going to get settled out in court based upon the information. So I would veer away from just adding a bunch of value because it's going to do the more tax dollars, raising mill levies for everybody else, and compound the problem.
Well, my question is, I'm going to ask them when we call them, if they have any objection to us adding to that the cost of having to verify the numbers of them or you. I mean, I'm looking at this and saying, I'm going to go out and visit this plant and see if the plant is the way it's supposed to be. Is my cost of doing, or the equalization people, is my cost able to be added to the cost because they're basically stalling a decision here?
There's no statutory provisions that provides any additional penalties or costs to do that. That's all bared by each party. Even when we go to litigation, each party still bears their own litigation side.
You mean the loser doesn't have to pay?
Right, yeah. Well, the loser pays his own costs. So
But we still have to pay our.
you guys still pay your costs too. But the problem with that, and one of the things that I promoted to the legislature was, now they have $75 million. They'll have $75 million in will be released for the market value. They're going to tie up $225 million or $2.2 million. The thing that I proposed to the legislatures to act a statute that if a company puts a $75 million value on there and it comes out that the value was $200 million, that they lose all of the interest tied up with their money because they tied up that money. They get the interest back, the difference, as some sort of penalty for playing the games that they're playing.
Okay.
Well, my question is how do we hold their feet to the fire if they're presenting evidence that they say is true, and we find as a equalization board that it is not true, and they're playing games? How do we add that to the cost that they're trying to play with?
Well, what it does, it turns over to be a criminal case in the matter of the district attorney's office for them false and fraudulent reporting numbers to there. That would have to be something investigated. That's a way that you could look at that. That's the Board of Equalization's got no power over that. But if the district attorney feels like these are false, fraudulent numbers, that's a reporting to a conspiracy, whatever. I don't know the statutes on that, but that's something that the district attorney certainly can look in. That's something that I pointed out last year for a grand jury investigation into looking at this problem. And we're at another year of 75 million versus their own number now, 210 million. It's quite obvious to me that's there, but who's going to hear that? I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Well, Chris, you really think if you call them, you're doing good? Changing it?
I think what we're going to hear is the girl's going to say, the lady, that she doesn't know, and what we should be talking to the companies, not some rep.
That's why I'm not for calling a rep.
Well, I would like to get her on record that says she doesn't know.
Okay. What else we got to do?
And just to clarify anything, when we discussed this at the informal, we really didn't discuss anything. He said that there is a court case in 5 counties and to just do a no change because it's all tied up in litigation. So that's what I did. I mean,
What stands out to me is how can they expect you to do what these guys that the schools and the county has hired this firm task to do. How do they expect you to do it? You can't go to Canada, you can't do that. And,
Well, that based on the dang legislature, it's
Yeah.
hard to understand.
well, they're relying upon the legislature to supersede or to bypass our position as an equalization board to look at the facts based on what's in Woods County.
No, hard to do that.
I mean, it seems to me like they're just disregarding our ability
We're not
to get to the facts.
Honestly, we're not gonna get anything done, so we might as well call and get this thing going. It's not, they're not gonna.
I want to call her and find out what her answer is, put her on record.
You have reached the offices of K.E. Andrews and Company. We apologize for not being able to answer your call at this time. If you know your party's extension, you may dial it at any time. For a dial by name directory, please press pound.
I'll run it and get that number. See if there's another number on my email. Well, wait a minute, I can do that over from here.
I doubt it.
Is the number that you have, I've got a 469-298-1594. Okay.
I got her cell phone number if you like to call it.
Rhonda's? Okay. She's calling.
I have her cell phone number here.
Okay.
Here, I'll just do that so we don't put it on the news.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, and all of that's be for oil companies. We're a joke.
Rhonda,
Yes.
this is Shelley Reed, Woods County Clerk.
Okay.
Yeah, we're in the Equalization Board meeting and we had a few questions. Can you answer those for us, maybe?
I will try.
Okay, all right.
This is Chris Olson with the Excise Board. My question to you is, you represent the Targa and the other people that we're discussing today. Do you have an objection to the record of the board as we've met today? Do you have an objection of that being presented as evidence in any further litigation that might occur?
Okay. My supervisor who is handling this county and everything, he is out of the office and I'm not able to contact him right now. Would you be able to hold on for just 1 second? I need to ask somebody about this real quick. I just don't want to give you an incorrect answer. And I wasn't, I'm sorry, give me just 1 second if that's okay.
Okay.
I'm just trying to find somebody that will give you the correct answer. Okay. Shelley, if you can give me one more minute, I've got, Ben Thompson is going to be here with me in just one moment. And he has also been involved in the target cases, and he knows more about this than me. So if you would give me just one more moment, I apologize for having to put you guys on.
Okay, thank you, Rhonda.
Hey, good morning, this is Ben Thompson, with Katie Andrews. And Rhonda came in with a question that she posed to me, and I don't think I understood the question. So do you mind repeating what the question was?
Well, we're in the Equalization Board. Our job is to make sure that all tax-paying entities are treated the same. And there is a major difference from what our information is today between the assessor and yours. And we have discussed several things, and we want to make sure that what we do is admissible, and our discovery today is admissible to the next level, if it goes to the next level, and because otherwise the Equalization Board is of none effect. We want to make sure that everything that we do, if we go out and inspect what's been presented to us today, if we verify those things, we want to make sure that our verification is part of the process. So do you have any objection for the record today to be part of the next process if it goes there?
So, yes, I think what you're talking about, I'm not exactly sure. I'm not an attorney, neither is Rhonda. Oklahoma's trial de novo, so which means it starts over. So I don't know that there is any information that we presented today that would hinder on either side any further litigation. I don't know what all can be presented in that, again, we're not counsel for Targa, so I think I would say that, respectfully, we cannot, I don't know if we can answer your question because it's something that we cannot foresee as we are not attorneys. And so, again, it's trial de novo, everything starts over. So if they ask for information and discovery, we would provide it. Which, so to your point, I think the question would be on the county side if they said, could you provide the packet that was provided or the affidavit that was provided in this county Board of Equalization for 2023, we would provide that document. But other than that, we really can't comment.
Well, our questions are, some of the information we're asking for is not available on your side of the argument here. That's the question. And if we pursue this with a recess and convene later, we want to know that your company is going to supply what we ask for, or is it all just in vain, that what we're doing here? Now, I understand you're employed by Targa, just as Task is employed by the school district in the county. So my question is, we want to verify both parties. And do you have an objection to all of these things being put on record and carried forward?
Yeah, I don't know what that means. I don't know
Okay.
what put on record means. I don't know if that's a legal term. I don't know if that is when you're saying put on the record, I'm assuming that the Board of Equalization, I'm assuming that all of this is part of the record. And so I don't know what that means. Now, in regards to, a lack of information, what documentation are you guys not receiving that you requested?
You did not give us an income statement here at the Board of Equalization for Woods County like you did in Major and Alfalfa.
Income statement for Woods County. Okay.
You did an income approach to that. This is Jerry Wisdom, Ben.
And
Yeah, it's, in the other Alfalfa and Major County, you guys provided them with the 21 and 22 revenues, and you know, your income analysis, and then this one you did not.
okay. And so the question that the board is asking is if the board decides to recess, would additional, to give us time to pull additional information, would we provide it? Is that the question?
Yes. We want to be fair on both sides. And we think our time is valuable, but our decision needs to be based on truth and on fact. And, you know, we may exercise the option to go visit these locations and
We
make
just
sure.
need your income.
We need to see your income. The market value has been presented as a difference between the two of you, and the income approach is definitely different. We just need some more information.
Okay. And I think that's, I think that's a fair request. And so, I would not be opposed to, if you guys decided to table it, us visiting Targa and each other here and providing some additional information, with respect to, I mean, if it exists in the form that you're asking. Sometimes we get questions that, you know, the information simply doesn't exist. And so if it exists, and we provide, yeah, we should. So, I know that doesn't really answer the question, the initial question of whether we object to this information being, I guess, provided in litigation, but, I think, you know, the Board of Equalization, you guys are the board, so you're the boss, so you can do whatever you need to do. So if you made a decision today, we obviously we respect that decision and probably pursue additional action. But if you table it also to provide additional time, I apologize. I'm not well versed on the facts of this specific situation right now as we speak, and so I don't know that I can give you much else.
Okay, Ben, this is Jerry again. The specific information is the second page. We only, and I don't know if it's a reason for your email or whatever, it got dropped or whatever, but we only got the front page for Woods County. In Major and in Alfalfa, you gave a second page, and it said that Target generated 53.7 million, and then you guys did an income approach with a 12% cap rate, made the total market value 448,268. That page did not come. I don't know if it was dropped in the email, but that's the point of contention, or not really contention, but the request from the board is, where is your income approach to value that you had in the other two counties? And if you, maybe you can look and see if they dropped it or something.
Okay. Page. Here, just let's. Yeah, I mean, we've been, I know it was a vital compression, got room compression, and the volumes are significantly lower than historical, and so I don't know, but I don't know that we intended to submit an income approach document, and Ron, we didn't, right? Yeah, so Ron is telling me we did not actually, so there is not a document, you're not missing a document, I guess, you're not missing the second page of the affidavit.
So you just didn't, while you provided it for Alfalfa and Major, you just didn't provide it for Woods, then on your income, the income approach to value that you guys performed.
That sounds like that's the case, correct? I don't think you want to see it though.
Oh, I'm looking at it from Alfalfa and Major. I just want to see it for Woods. So does the board.
Our purpose is to make sure that we have all the facts verified and to make a decision. So we're asking that you guys, even though you're an employee of Targa, We need to have verification from the people that are protesting us, not basically you, but the company Target. So, need that information. And that's all my questions. I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page here.
Okay, all right, I appreciate that, and appreciate your time this morning as well.
Hey, Dan, I guess the question is, can you provide that income approach value like you did for alfalfa and woods? Alfalfa and major. That's something that you guys have. Is that something
Is it the same
that?
document, Jerry? Are you looking at the same document for both counties?
No, I'm looking at the one from Alfalfa County, but I've seen it in Major County too as well. Yeah, it is, if you just look at the there was 2 pages for the other, and that's why that it came up right here, because you don't have an allocation, here for, Woods County. And maybe it's just because of the way you reported the value. I don't know what the answer is, but I guess the question is, can you do that, or they just need to, rule and move on, or do something
Yeah,
else?
I think we can do it. I don't know that it's gonna, don't we have previous litigation in Woods?
Oh, yeah, but this is a whole new year.
Right, so, yeah, I would, okay, if it was me and I was the board, I would say make the decision with the information you have available and just continue to pursue, additional measures.
So there's no warrant on you guys decide to try to settle that then?
Well, no, we'd love to resolve it, obviously, but, at this point, if you're asking for an additional document,
I'm just asking for your income approach to value that you guys performed on the system.
but you're asking for something that, so if no one didn't do an income approach on this county, then you're asking us to create something.
No, you said you did an income approach for the total Target West Oak. So then you would allocate it to the woods. That's what he's done
Right,
previously.
but, yeah, I guess that's my point. The point is that we don't have that current document that you're asking for out with an allocation of woods. And so
Okay.
that's something that would have to be created. And so the answer to that is no, we don't have that right now. And so that would be something we would need to create to fulfill this request. And so, we don't actually have that document. Maybe I think I misunderstood what the question was.
Okay. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Doug.
All right, thank you. Bye.
All right, thanks, Shelley.
Okay. Pretty obvious, we
Wow.
the 309. I move we accept the 309, 561, 650.
I'll second that.
Just stick with her values.
Yeah.
Yeah. Value of the assessor. Discussion?
I'd like to hold their feet to the fire and then make them come up with,
I don't think they have to. I don't think they have to. He already told you, no, we don't have that, we're not gonna do it.
Didn't it? I found it strange that he suggested that we was asking them to create a document.
my question is, to our assistant Pete here.
Yes.
If the school districts are paying us to do a job,
Yes.
and these people are not going to fulfill their side of the equation,
Right.
does our school people in our county have the right, or would have the right to sue them because they're impeding our ability to make a correct decision based on truth, based on fact?
I see your point. I think the way they're penalized though, you have a meeting here where they were provided notice and the decision is y'all's to make, right?
Yeah.
That's what your task was doing.
Or postpone till they provide what we're asking for, and, they realize that we're asked for something that is pertinent to our decision.
Yes, but you've asked for evidence from the parties and you've got an expert subpoenaed here, right?
Right.
So you have very ample evidence on this side. The other side submits something that doesn't even rise to the level of an affidavit. He characterized it as an affidavit, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not self-proving, it's
Yeah.
nothing more than a letter. It's not even signed, it's just
Yeah.
something printed off. So you're to, I mean,
Weigh the
it would
evidence.
appear you're to weigh the evidence, and one side gives you an expert, a known expert, the other side gives you a one-page letter. Well, it is what it is, you know?
Yeah, I don't like
If they don't want to make any more effort than that, then, you know, decision's yours to make.
Okay.
I think we're good here. I think we've got good information and he's backed us up on that. We may not like the fact they don't give us because it's tough. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Okay, our discussion that we're having today and the evidence that we presented, is this able to be passed to the next level?
Yes.
Yep.
And that next level, whoever they are, whether it's the 3 judges set up by the state or whether it's district court,
Yes,
is this admissible? I mean, here, we should have a recorded record of what we're doing here today. Why we make the decision.
We do.
When it goes before the district court it's a case of first impression, right?
Yeah.
It's a trial de novo, so it's a case of first impression, and the court will take whatever evidence is provided. Now, it would be up to the court to admit whatever evidence they want to see.
Okay.
And whether that is a record from a previous hearing or not, that would be within the discretion of that court. I would suspect the court would want new evidence to be presented by both parties, right?
To know whether or not we've done our job or not, maybe. Otherwise, we're just wasting our time.
Well, you're providing a vital step in the process, and if one party chooses to not fully participate, arguably, you've still provided a vital service, right? I mean, you can't make them step up and provide you with what they ought to, I don't know.
Okay.
That was my question to this lady that represents
Yeah,
us.
we'll proceed to
They
vote.
got an objection to this being a part of the evidence.
Yes, sir.
All those in favor of the motion before us, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. All members voted aye.
Explanation as to why we're retaining the assessor's value.
Because we were presented no evidence to
No supporting
suggest
document.
that it was no supportive evidence that would support anything different. We were not given any information from the company to support anything different than what we approved of.
Yeah, not only was Nolan not available, he was unavailable to reach by phone by Ramos.
Okay. Now, what I'm gonna suggest here is we're gonna get the same thing. How about an expedited presentation?
You've already heard all this other stuff.
We've all heard of it, it's the same deal.
Next, yeah.
Okay, this is a new one, okay? We have an affidavit of Scott Chrysler, state of Colorado, state of Denver. Can we just, do I need to read this in the record or not?
That's what he'd like, he said.
It says what?
He said he would like you to read it.
All right. That's great, I can read. Scott Chrysler, being duly sworn of lawful age of my personal knowledge and belief, states as follows. My name is Scott Chrysler. I'm the property tax manager for DCP Operating Company, LP DCP. The statements made herein are true and correct and are based on my personal knowledge and belief. Due to resource limitations, I'm submitting this affidavit pursuant to 68 O.S. and 2877C, whatever that is, in lieu of attending today's meeting in person or by telephone. The information contained herein is confidential pursuant to 6808-2835. public hearing if it's not. DCP owns and operates gas gathering pipelines for related equipment in Woods County. DCP receives gas produced by oil and gas companies at the wellhead and moves the gas through its gathering lines to processing plants where liquids are removed. The liquids and residue gas are then sold. The long-term downturn in volumes in oil and gas liquids prices has had a significant negative impact on DCP. This downturn has negatively impacted the fair market value of DCP's tangible personal property located in Woods County. Number 3. In preparing our 2023 values for all DCP assets, including those in Woods County, we've calculated a fair market value based on the cost of what is rendered for 2023. Our cost approach again this year has been impacted by economic obsolescence similar to prior years. Economic obsolescence is a form of depreciation where the loss in value or usefulness of a property is caused by factors external to the property. Our rendered values have also been affected by various DCP asset sales within the Mid-Continent region. Number 4, DCP believes the assessor's value exceeds the actual fair market value of the subject property, and the assessor's value fails to accurately measure all forms of depreciation under the cost approach, including but not limited to economic obsolescence. You'd think I could pronounce that word, anyway. And fails to obsolescence, I got it last time, and fails to reflect
That's what
the
he said.
decline in the asset value due to DCP asset sales. DCP would request the board to consider DCP's valuation of $2,308,737.
So, and this is the one that tells what each one of them, how much he thinks it should be valued at compared to what the assessor.
Do I need to do anything
It's
with
just
it?
a copy of it.
Okay. Since they're not here, they're not going to be here. Discussion.
When I spoke with Chris,
Scott, I'm sorry, Scott.
Scott on the phone, he wanted us to drop everything down to 4.6 million, and that was the only way we could sell, so.
Okay. So,
Okay, I've been subpoenaed by the board. This packet's going to be similar to other. I'm going to point you to 3 pages out of this one because you've already seen the other one from prior. You'll turn to page 7. Do the exhibit. Again, we talked about year-over-year EBITDAs, company-wide. DCP, and again, this is company-wide, not just the Mid-Continent region because they do not break that down, but the DCP NOI is up 94% over last year, as you can see on the graph on page 7. So if you'll turn to page 25. Again, this is information that Renetta and I went over prior to the informal, prior to our evaluations. That on March 15th, I reached out to Mr. Chrysler. In years past, there's been a part of the settlement agreements, others, that we would reach out to each other and try to get information for both parties to have to maybe get this process a little bit quicker. Standing in good faith, that's what we still continue to do. But I asked him, starting to receive that, if you would please record the Excel files for renditions he did for past years. He did do that electronically. Additionally, I didn't see any volumes, compressor utilization, or EBITDA. Those things were not provided for us from that. And what we're talking about is on the next page, on page 26. So there at the bottom, he gave us graphs last year for 2018, 19, 20, and 21. He didn't give us this information for 22 as well. So we did an income approach to value on page 26. Just giving it really kind of the same flat like it didn't decline, but our income approach to value came in at $13,567,219, and our cost approach was $11,418,906. The assessor kept the value the same as last year, so that's reflected on the last pages. So the assessor's value is 11,418,906, that sheet like that.
Questions? I would entertain a motion to accept the assessor's evaluation.
Let's discuss this a little bit. So there is another company. So the assessor's value is 11 million, and they want to use 2 million, is it? 2,388,000.
Yes, 2,388,000.
And how much difference is that percentage wise? 11 million versus 2 million?
That's 75%. I guess he offered, what was his offer to settle? That you
I
wrote down?
have 4.6.
4.6 is what he said in the informal, so he cut that in half for this value here from what he said he would settle on the informal, according to. So he's tied up another, you know, 2.5.
It sure seems to be becoming bolder and bolder.
He was wanting 2 million is where he kept going, but then in the end, when it was all said and done, he come up to 4.6 million that he would settle.
On page 26, I'm looking at his gathering fee, $1.10.
That, actually, his gathering fee for last year was $1.32. That's the average market price for across Oklahoma is around $1.10 as we used in our model. If you look at DCP's actual information, they averaged gathering and processing fees $1.32.
Who controls that ability? Is it just strictly the company that can raise or lower that gathering fee?
It's contractually.
So basically, what we're saying here, if they have a shortfall, all they do is raise the gathering fee. Right?
It's contractually if they have the ability to do that.
What bothers me about this deal, these people, is they absolutely do not want to negotiate, they don't want to give us any information. I mean, they just, hey,
They want to bypass us.
yeah, they just want to bypass us and let the district court or the 3 judges take, hoping that that would be better.
Yeah.
I don't see where we have any choice here.
Well, I want the, basically, I want the evidence to be presented here so that we're making a judgment
We
based
have
on
no-
fact and
we-
truth. And if the fact and truth is they don't want to do it, that's part of the truth.
But we have no power, all we can do is ask. They do not have to answer.
Yeah.
And that's, you have to talk to the legislature about that deal.
Well, my position is maybe somebody should sue them because they're not doing that, and that would be the school board in the county.
I don't, that's the guy that's the lawyer here.
Yeah.
I'd have the same answer, sir, that, you know, you're making your decision based on the
Yeah.
evidence presented.
But do you see this as nothing but a game?
Well, I see your point, I do.
Okay.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve the assessor's valuation.
Based on the evidence, I'm gonna go along with the assessor.
I so move, I make the motion, so
Second.
Bob second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All 3, Chris, yes, Bob, yes, Joe, yes.
And who made the motion?
I did.
Oh, you did, okay.
Okay, do we end this session? Are we done? Do we have another one, or what?
We've got to do a reason, and then, is it the same reason as the other one?
Yeah, same reason the other one.
Okay, yes, and then we gotta end the session, the whole session. This is the last meeting, there's no more.
Well, then we have,
This year.
I move that we end, well, we should move to adjourn, right?
Yeah, we're gonna adjourn.
All we need is adjourn.
I second.
I move we adjourn this session of the Woods County Board of Equalization.
Okay.
And Bob second?
You second.
Yep. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Bob, Chris, and Joe vote aye.